Alright, so I have a quick kind of day one update for Magic Nightblade. This is going to apply to both ranged and melee, although one of my recommendations will be a little bit more melee focused. Now, Nightblade itself did not really suffer any changes that will affect it in PvP. It got a little bit of a change in PvE, a cleave buff, which is nice, but generally that will not be affecting us in PvP. But we have the release of all the new scribing skills. Now, it's going to take me a while to actually get all the skills and test everything out and see what works and see what doesn't, but for day one, I have some that are easy to get that I can wholeheartedly recommend, either because I have done a little bit of playing with them or because of numbers. So first off, I want to talk about Magical Contingency, which I believe is Ulfhild's Contingency. I saw some discourse about this on the forums, and people were like, oh, I don't like it. How is it a contingency? Well, I do understand where they're coming from. But for melee players specifically, this is like budget shulks. If you want to know what I mean by budget shulks, well, Warden has the ability to put shulks in the ground, which then blow up later, as a method of delayed burst. This is essentially the same thing, except it has a little bit more control applied to it. So it's going to do 6,000 magic damage to enemies in a AoE area, so I believe this should be undodgeable. Have not tested it, but it should be. Then it will increase, I have it set to do extra damage on my next attack, and it's going to give us minor force. So why is this great for melee Nightblades? Well, of course, we have just the fact that we have this delayed burst ability that we can line up with our attacks is really, really handy. If you don't have a source of major force, then you can have it by getting that affix and attaching it to this skill. And then as for the middle effect, I recommend using the one that increases the damage done with your next direct damage attack, or your next direct attack used within 7 seconds by 2,000. Now it's going to get cut down to 1,000, or in Cyrodiil, but it's still, like, it all stacks up. So let's say if you're going to get, if you're going to in-cap someone, this is great, because this will increase the damage of your next in-cap while going off at the same time as your in-cap, and it's undodgeable. And then if you crit with a follow-up, either Concealed or Merciless, then you're going to be getting the benefit of that. I honestly don't think it matters what your next attack is, because you're like, oh, if it applies to my next attack, then I should not light attack weave after using in-cap, because I want to save that effect for Merciless. But at the end of the day, you're still going to be doing the same amount of damage, because it's just adding, you're just doing 1,000 damage. It does not matter the application. I do not believe it applies to the tooltip, so therefore it's not going to get multiplied by your spell damage or whatever. So go ahead, just light attack normally. This will not interrupt your rotation that much. It's just something you hit before using in-cap. Now, people will probably eventually catch on to this, and they'll notice that when you cast it, you're probably getting ready for an in-cap, but you can also use this to fake people out. Given this gives us minor force for 22 seconds, we can just cast this every 22 seconds. And that'll kind of fake them out. It'll be like, oh god, are they going to use it? And after a certain point in time, they may be like, oh, they're not going to use it. No big deal. It doesn't matter if I see that ability, they're probably not going to in-cap me, and then boom, you in-cap them. I don't know. That's a very idealized version of it, but this is going to be a great ability for bursting people down. So much so that I'm going to try not using Shade, which is kind of sacrilegious to me. I always use Shade. So not having Shade on my bar definitely feels wrong. Although melee Magblade usually has enough speed for me to manage, so no big deal. And then as for the second one, this one applies to both melee and ranged. You can absolutely use this skill as a melee, or as a ranged Magblade. I might try using it for duels specifically. But, sorry, did I say melee? I meant ranged. But for both forms of melee and ranged Nightblade, I'm going to suggest using the Healing Soul, which is essentially the Wield Soul skill, but you make it heal. So it does, it's in the Soul Magic skill line, so it is going to actually trigger Soul Shatter, which I have literally never put points into this, because I never have a Soul Magic ability on my bar, and it requires you to have one slotted. But now I do. And if I die, it's pretty common for me to be on my back bar, or, if I hit 20% HP, it's pretty common for me to be on my back bar. So this actually might see some use every now and then. It probably won't see that much use. It probably won't do that much, but hey, more damage is more damage. It's free damage, it's only 2 skill points. So yeah, actually put points into this now, because you can use Wield Soul. Wield Soul itself is, I believe, to be a problematic skill, but, it's very versatile. I will probably talk about other applications of Wield Soul in the future when I get more affixes and all this shit to try out, but for now, this is my recommendation to you. As long as you have a siphoning ability on your back bar, replace Healthy Offering with Healing Soul. And you may think, well, let's look at the tooltips. It says right here that this is almost 12k. It's 11.9k healing. This is 11.2k healing. So technically you're getting more healing out of Healthy Offering. While this is true, let me now direct you to what I have put on this ability. This is going to grant you Major Vitality for 10 seconds, which is going to increase your healing received and damage shield strength by 12%. This only gives you Minor Mending. So if you do a heavy attack with your Ice Staff and you get a shield, Minor Mending won't affect that, but Major Vitality will. So you're going to be getting 4% more healing, and you're going to be able to benefit from the damage shield ability. Furthermore, you may rightly be like, oh, well, their costs are different. Healing Soul costs more. This is true. This is absolutely true. Healing Soul does cost about 1.1 thousand more. Is it 1.1? Actually, no, it's really just about like 1.10 or 1,010 more. Rough math. So it doesn't actually cost that much more. And you can make it so that it actually costs the same amount so long as you put in the Resource Restore in the second slot. Major Vitality is great. It's probably what makes this overall better than Healthy Offering, because like either way, you're going to do more healing. I'll get onto that in a second. 4% more healing with Major Vitality, and the healing done is actually pretty similar. And then so you just have the resource to consider. Well, this is going to give you 1,000 magic back, which means that, sure, the tooltip cost might be different, but in practicality, if you just knock 1,000 off of 4,300, you're going to get something close to 3,300. So the cost, this is going to cost you 100 more magicka. Very expensive, I know. And in addition to that, this is going to be a stam sustainability now. Every time you hit it, you're going to get 1,000 stamina. So just imagine, heavy attack, heal, dodge roll. Heavy attack, heal, dodge roll. You're going to have the stamina to do that, in addition to the Major Vitality giving your Ice Staff shield a little bit more of a bump. It doesn't do that much in the first place, but it is nice. And then, you know, you're heavy attacking, so you're getting resources back. So if you do that, you can self-sustain quite a lot. It's kind of ridiculous. Now to talk about the actual healing done. So looking here, this does roughly 12,000 healing in a single burst. This will do 11.2 thousand. So this technically does more healing, I admit that. However, you have to consider the fact that over the course of 3 seconds, let's actually see the number itself, huh? There you go. Over the course of 3 seconds, you will drain an additional 1,000 health from you. So there's an upfront benefit of having an extra 1,000 health's worth of healing, but in the long run of a fight, it's no better than just having like 1,000, like a 100 or 1,000 size shield attached to the heal. So yeah, in the long run, this does less healing, and that's not even considering the buff that it adds, Minor Mending. So that is my recommendation. As I get more affixes and other stuff, then I will try stuff out and I will make a dedicated build update video. But this is just a day one, what should I use for now, before things are researched and we have a concrete meta. And, you know, here's your answer. Sorry it's a bit long. I wanted to take the time to actually explain everything like I do in every video. And this new system is interesting and problematic, but probably won't see the problems for a bit, so let's just try to have fun with it in the meantime. Good luck out there, everyone.